going on, everybody? It's the Bulls Show, aka Aidan, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a Chicago Bulls and Minnesota Timberwolves game reaction. This is one of those games where you just simply could not sleep on the opponent, as they have a above 500 record, fighting for a playoff spot, and definitely have a dynamic offensive team. But the Chicago Bulls responded in their own kind with a terrific offensive performance of their own, as we walk away with a big, very important victory at the United Center at our home turf, and it's very happy to see. Before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show. Turn notifications on and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls game today. Who was your player of the game and your overall thoughts and opinions on today's game? We won this game 134 to 122. Now, if you're going to go straight to the negatives, you can obviously say the defensive end is still a big issue for the Chicago Bulls, as it has been for quite some time. But today, our offense was on another level, ladies and gentlemen. So many players had so many incredibly great offensive games, especially from our starting lineup today, and it was honestly an unbelievable performance to watch. It's a very fun game. The Timberwolves are a very good team. I've watched a couple of their games now. They're a very exciting team. They're very young, they're very vibrant, and they do exactly what they're supposed to do on the court. They run out in transition. They put their faith in Anthony Edwards and in Karl Anthony Towns, and even in D'Angelo Russell as well, even though today is not a good representation for him. And they brought out a really good offensive game. The Chicago Bulls walked into this game probably knowing that this game was going to be probably the most difficult out of the rest of the week, and probably the most difficult heading into the All-Star break. And they walked away with a very convincing win, in my opinion. A win that shows that we can compete still with teams above that 500 record, and we definitely should continue to put our faith and trust into these players and see what can come out of it. Some of these guys that I'm genuinely surprised had games like they did. For example, Javonte Green, another really special game from him. Kobe White, a good special game from him as well. Ayo Dosunmu as well. So many fantastic offensive performances, and you simply just can't hide that fact for the Chicago Bulls. As again, we've said it for quite some time now, but it remains true today as well. We've had one of our best offensive games of the season. Again, if you want to look at the negatives, outside of Kobe White, the bench scoring was pretty much non-existent. That's something that we do need to focus on. And again, more players coming back will allow that bench to become a little bit more stronger in terms of the depth and the quality, as well as the scoring for the bench. But our starting lineup definitely picked up the load today, and there's a reason why all of them played a lot of minutes, and it's because they were really special in today's game. I think every single one of these starters, even Zach LaVine, that may have not had his best game of the season, still did things, in my opinion, that made me really want to give him some appreciation and some love. He really deserves a good playmaking night like he did, and same with the rest of the starting lineup. It was an extremely, really strong offensive game, and the defense does need work. We can't ignore the negatives of the game. The defense still needs work. We're still giving up way too many points for us to really be considered as a very strong team in the Eastern Conference at the moment. 122 points is not something that we'd like to see. You'd like to narrow that down to between the 100 and 110, and at your best you want to limit it down to around the 90s, which is something that we have to keep focusing on. That defensive performance against the Charlotte Hornets was not really there against the Minnesota Timberwolves, but the offense was definitely there, and in my opinion it was a lot better, and again, one of the best of the season. So with that being said, let's look at the individual performances, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be starting off with Mr. Ayo Dosunmu. First things first, it is so great to see Ayo Dosunmu back, avoided any serious concussion protocols and an injury that could have sent him out for 2 weeks or more. He ends up avoiding that concussion, and he's back for the Chicago Bulls, and he dropped a double-double. He's second of the season, I believe, with 14 points, 4 rebounds, 10 assists, and 3 steals. Only missed a shot in today's game, and it was from the three-point line. 2 from 3 from the three-point line, overall 6 from 7 from the field, and it's a fantastic point guard performance from Ayo Dosunmu. He's not someone that we need to rely on to drop 25 to 30 points a night. We know other players on this team can do that at a very high level, and a couple of players dropped over 20 points in this game. So Ayo, being that assist guy that he is, ended up grabbing the ball, being that main point guard, no look passes, good passes, transition passes, alley-oops to Zach LaVine and stuff of that nature, just making the game easier for everybody around him. And defensively, he was definitely no pushover as well. We could have said there were a lot of negative things defensively. For example, Anthony Edwards pretty much cut to the basket at will today, something that we simply could not stop. There were a lot of opportunities where the three-point line was very damaging for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Chicago Bulls definitely felt their three-point presence in the second half. But Ayo defensively was not the weakness in today's game, in my opinion. I thought he was as strong as ever, and the fact that he had symptoms of a concussion in the prior game against the Phoenix Suns, to having a game like this, a double-double performance, almost feeling like he never left for the Chicago Bulls, is truly a fantastic sight to see. And all I can say is we did miss him for a game, but we missed him nonetheless. I'm really happy that he's back. DeMar DeRozan with a very typical night for him, ladies and gentlemen. 35 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal, 14 from 22 from the field, which is 63%, and he missed 1 3-point shot. DeMar DeRozan, this is what he's been doing all of February, ladies and gentlemen. He's averaging around 35 points in the month of February. I'd be stunned if he's not considered for a Player of the Month award for the Eastern Conference, and he thoroughly deserves it with the way that he's been carrying this team through the injuries, through all the adversity that we're going through. Of course, even the trade deadline now could be seen as that adversity, and we're still finding ways to pick up really important victories, and we're finding ways for these guys like DeMar DeRozan to really have those strong performances. Again, his partner in crime, Zach LaVine, was really poor from the field today. We'll get to Zach LaVine next. So DeMar DeRozan having the night that he had, along with the other guys stepping up in place of what Zach LaVine couldn't do in today's game, it's a fantastic team performance, and it's a good team camaraderie. It means that we got each other's backs, and when someone's not delivering on the court, if someone's having an off night, other guys are willing to step in and carry the load for the Chicago Bulls. But DeMar DeRozan is that one consistent that you don't see have bad nights that often, and he's thoroughly deserving of another fantastic performance today. Great from the mid-range, good at the basket, got a nice good dunk in today's game as well. A typical DeMar DeRozan performance, and a great DeMar DeRozan performance. Zach LaVine had 12 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists with 1 block in today's game. Now, Zach LaVine, this is definitely not a great Zach LaVine game. A great Zach LaVine game would pretty much have very similar numbers, except his efficiency would be through the roof, considering where it was today at 35%. And of course, his points tally would be within the 20s. And that would be a great game for Zach LaVine in my opinion. But he did do some things well in today's game, and that is the facilitating. That is some really nice passes. One that really stood out to me was a really nice bullet pass to Javonte Green for a nice dunk. Things of that nature. Zach LaVine was definitely a team-oriented player today, more than just a scorer. He took 14 shots in the game. He made 5 of them. He got some good dunks in the game, and that's where most of his points came from. But we all know this is not the best Zach LaVine performance, but games like this show that we don't need Zach LaVine to drop 30 every single night for us to be successful. Hopefully, this game is, again, a one-off. Many people might think he's hurt. Stacey King said he was wincing in the game. I hope that isn't the case. Same with Javonte Green. I hope both of those players are okay. But even if it's not, even if he is hurt, maybe the next game he could take a break and we could just kind of give him that well-rest that he deserves heading into that All-Star break, that All-Star game as well. We need to make sure that he can stay as healthy as possible. Moving into the next game, or the next player, I should say, Nikola Vucevic had 26 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists in today's game. One of the first times in a long time that Nikola Vucevic didn't get a double-double in today's game. Again, he's guarding a perimeter threat in Karl-Anthony Towns. And I know the numbers might show Karl-Anthony Towns had a good game, but the way that I saw it, again, my Bulls' eyes were only watching the Bulls pretty much. I thought Vucevic outplayed Karl-Anthony Towns big time today. One of the things that really got the advantage is that Nikola Vucevic frustrated Karl-Anthony Towns. I'm not sure if this is how Karl-Anthony Towns acts every single time he plays. I watch some Timberwolves games, but some of them I don't. And the reality is, he was arguing a lot in today's game. He was arguing with the refs, which means Nikola Vucevic could hustle down the court, get an easy post-up, easy matchup, easy buckets. A lot of his damage was done in the paint today, but he did make 2 threes in the game as well. He shot 78% from the field, and This is it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm fully convinced with Nikola Vucevic this season. I think his last 2.5 weeks of basketball has been very, very solid for the Chicago Bulls. And it looks like he's adapted to the way that he's been playing. And for the most part, he's doing some great things. Of course, there are going to be nights where he's not the best. Every single player goes through that. Zach LaVine went through that today. That doesn't mean Zach LaVine's a bad player at all. It doesn't mean that we should be considering talking about or trading Zach LaVine. With Vucevic, he's had a very up and down season, but the last 2.5 weeks has been very consistent, I should say. And heading into that All-Star break, that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to give him to the All-Star break for him to truly see if he's changed or not. If the game that he's meant to be playing, the way that he's changed it, if it's going to be effective or not. And I think it's safe to say, again, 4 games left. We can't guarantee it for sure, but I'm pretty convinced now that this is the Nikola Vucevic we're going to see for the rest of the season and hopefully in the playoffs. If we go to that perimeter-orientated Nikola Vucevic once again, taking 6-7 threes a night, that's when we're going to see a little bit of a struggle. Because if he doesn't make them, he's not really impactful. But when he's in the paint, he's very impactful. And that's where he needs to be in the future. Javonte Green had 23 points in the game, 4 rebounds, 1 assist in today's game. His career high or season high in points. I'm pretty sure it's his career high as well. Shooting 10 from 13 from the field, 3 from 4 from the three-point line. And it's a luxury at its finest to see Javonte Green score the way that he did today. He was, for the most part, for the majority of the game, the leading scorer into the game. And he does it very simply. It's cutting to the basket. It's putting defenders to sleep. And, of course, it's knocking down the three-point shot. Those are the keys to Javonte Green and his big performance today. He didn't get to the free throw line like we expect from him, but that was just a typical thing in the game. The refs let the guys play, and the guys played hard. And Javonte did what he's expected to do, and the players are starting to find him now more when he's cutting to the basket. When it comes to backdoor cuts, when it comes to pick and roll dives, things of that nature, people are finding Javonte Green, and the respect around the Chicago Bulls, knowing Javonte Green is undersized, but he's still athletic enough to put the ball in the basket. He's been fantastic these past few weeks, double-digit scoring in almost every single one of those games, and today was his career high, and it was well deserved. Moving into the bench, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start off with Coby White, that had 22 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, and 2 steals, 8 from 12 from the field, 6 from 10 from the three-point line. Isn't it incredible how 2 halves of basketball could be so different? Coby White in the first half was one of the worst players on the court. No disrespect to Coby White, but that's just the way that it was. He was one of the worst players on the court. Very unforced turnovers, getting himself into situations he couldn't get himself out of, not really scoring very well, getting blocked, things of that nature, a couple of turnovers, just unbelievably poor from Coby White. I think he ended the half on 4 points in that game. Second half comes around, mainly the second half of the third quarter into the fourth quarter. Coby White felt like he couldn't miss. It was an eruption of points from Coby White, and the bench sorely needed a performance like that because outside of Coby White, again, we only had 2 points outside of Coby White off of this bench. This bench has been a non-factor for a long time now with the Chicago Bulls in terms of scoring. And I need to see that change when it gets a little bit healthier because this is just not sustainable going forward if we want to win some big games. We need to see bench production. We need to be more reliable off of this bench if we're going to go and push into, I guess, the playoffs and further on. But in Coby White's game today, the second half was truly unbelievable. Probably the best half of basketball from Coby White I've seen. Pretty much right before one of the worst first halves I've seen from Coby White. But again, in the total of the game, 28 minutes and 22 points, 6 rebounds as well, 2 steals. It's a good game from Coby White overall, and that's all you could really say on that situation from Coby White. Congratulations for that eruption, and once again, it was very well needed. When Coby White started scoring, the lead started going up, and that is great to see. And again, he's a starter playing off of the bench for the Chicago Bulls, and he rightfully deserves to have a game like this. And again, beautiful performance, all I could really say. Tony Bradley had 2 points and 4 rebounds with 1 assist and 2 blocks. To be honest, I thought Tony Bradley, there were some instances in the game where he was good, instances in the game where he was bad. For example, the pump fake pretty much Karl Anthony Towns gave him to drive to the basket. He couldn't guard Karl Anthony Towns. But as playing against their backup center, and I think Nazi Reed, and being able to do things there, I thought he was all right. I thought he got a nice and one opportunity. He got a couple of blocks in there, moving his feet on defense. Again, the second unit center for the Minnesota Timberwolves and the second unit center for the Chicago Bulls. I think they evened themselves out in many ways. I think Nazi Reed got a 3 in the fourth quarter. Tony Bradley got an and 1 in the first or second quarter. And they balanced each other out in every other area. So we kind of nullified their performance. And Tony Bradley, they kind of nullified Tony Bradley's performance in my eyes. They kind of cancelled each other out. Malcolm Hill and Troy Brown Jr. played, but they didn't score. Troy Brown had 5 points. Malcolm Hill had 5 rebounds. Malcolm Hill had 2 rebounds. That's really all I have to say on the situation. And I'm not going to give a must improve for this game. I think it's I think it's too harsh to give it to Malcolm Hill or Troy Brown Jr. Troy Brown Jr. played 10 minutes and didn't get a point. I guess you could see a reason to give it to him. You could give it to Zach LaVine as well, but I think Zach LaVine did things well in other areas for me not to give it to him. I think it's a very easy decision not to give the must improve today. But for me, I'm going to give the player of the game to Nikola Vucevic. I thought Nikola Vucevic was outstanding in today's game. It's a typical DeMar DeRozan performance as well to drop 35 and 6 on really efficient shooting. But in my opinion, the way that Vucevic outplayed Karl-Anthony Towns is the key difference in today's game. Of course, the fouls came in the fourth quarter. He got 5 fouls towards the end, but he stuck through it, and he had a really terrific performance in today's game. Ayo's in contention for this as well. Javonte's in contention for this as well. DeMar is obviously the key guy that many people would give it to, but I really thought Vucevic was the standout performer in today's game, hence why I'm going to give him the player of the game. DeMar, of course, if you give it to him, no complaints whatsoever. The Bulls' record is 35-21. I still believe we sit second in the Eastern Conference at the moment with an opportunity to climb to first in our next game. Of course, if things go right with the Nets and the Miami Heat game. We'll wait and see how that one fares. Brooklyn have lost 10 in a row, so I find it hard to believe they'll beat the Miami Heat, but we'll just have to wait and see. And our next game lies in a back-to-back at the United Center against the OKC Thunder. I believe the OKC Thunder do not have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for their team in the next game against the Chicago Bulls. So that's their best player out for their team, and we've beaten them away from home with their best player. I expect the Chicago Bulls to come into this game to be fully dominant and to walk out with a really strong victory. We can't have one of those games where we fall to the opponent's level. We can't have that with the Chicago Bulls, because if we do have that, then in the end, it's a poor performance and it's an unnecessary loss heading into the All-Star break and heading into a very important stretch of games where we have to keep our spot in the Eastern Conference. We have to get within the top 4. We sit second right now. Losing that game to the OKC Thunder will be very damaging towards our season. We have to beat the teams we're expected to beat, and we are fully expected to beat this OKC side. No disrespect to them. Of course, they're a team that likes to come back in games, but we have to walk away with the win there. Let's see what we can do, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to end this video here. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in the next Chicago Bulls game reaction against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Have a wonderful and safe day. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care and peace.